So, good evening again. We are back to the Spirits book, and we are on the last item of book 1 of the Spirits book. Book 1 is, as you remember, is, what is it? Book 1? No one? Anyone?
First causes.
First causes. Thank you, Paco. So, first causes, we are on chapter 4, which is vital principle. And in vital principle, we are on the last item. Let me just pull it here, just one sec, which is intelligence and instinct. And I'm just looking for the page here so you don't have to see it all moving around. Yeah, here we are. So I'm going to share with you. There you go. Philip, can you start us?
Intelligence and instinct. Is intelligence an attribute of the vital principle? No. Since plants live and do not think, they only possess organic life. Intelligence and matter are independent of one another. A body may live without intelligence, but intelligence can only manifest itself through physical organs. Living matter can only be made intelligent when united with a spirit. Intelligence is a special faculty belonging only to certain classes of organic beings that give these beings the power to think, the will to act, and the consciousness of their existence and individuality, and the means of establishing relations with the external world and fulfilling their unique needs. We may therefore distinguish the following. Inanimate beings, solely matter, without life or intelligence, the bodies of the mineral world. Non-thinking living beings made up of matter and endowed with vitality, but not intelligence. Living and thinking beings made up of matter, endowed with vitality and possessing an intelligent principle that gives them the faculty of thought.
Okay, so first, let us make one thing here for us to understand. When we talk about intelligence and instinct, at that time, at the time of Kardec, everything that related to impulses of non-intelligent actions was called instincts. Later, in the beginning of the 20th century, they created other definitions and they moved away from the concept of instinct in the way they saw it before. So nowadays, we talk about instinct, of course, but we also talk about reflex and we talk about autonomic impulses that our physical body has, right? So it's important for us to know that there are these different concepts within the idea of instinct of the 19th century, okay? So the first important point here that the spirits make is that intelligence is not an attribute of the vital principle. So intelligence is something separate. So we discussed before that and we had a long discussion on the Q&A between the difference between intelligence and ideas and thoughts. Thoughts are matter, but intelligence is an attribute of the intelligent principle, okay, or the spiritual principle. Now, as we talk about living matter, which is the incarnated beings, that's what Kardec and the spirits are talking here. The intelligence is a special faculty that belongs only to a certain classes. So what Kardec says, inanimate beings, the ones that do not have vital principle, they are solely matter. So they have no life and no intelligence. The non-thinking living beings, the plants, they are made up of matter and endowed with vitality, but not intelligence. You can find some instinctive or maybe you would call different attributes in vegetables, in plants. So because they look for the sun, this is all intrinsic in the plant, right? But it's not what we would call intelligence. And then the living and thinking beings, animals think, okay? They just have fragmented thinking. That's why they cannot process their thinking. They have an intelligence principle that gives them the faculty of thought. So in the animal class, we have different types of animals. That we have animals that can learn from repetitive behaviors, and animals that do not learn even with repetitive behaviors, right? So we can talk a little bit more about that later. But the basic concepts here for us to understand is that the intelligence is an attribute of the animals and humans, of course. Okay, intelligent in the spiritual world, it's an attribute of all the spirits, of course. And we're not going here into the degree of intelligence. It's just the basic attribute of intelligence. When you make a choice and you think and you make a choice, or you make a choice based on your learning, you are using the intelligence, okay? Basic, but you know, it's important to understand here. So any doubts, any questions, please let me know. Nothing?
Okay.
Okay. Go ahead, Philip.
What is the source of intelligence? We have already told you, universal intelligence. It is correct to say that every intelligent being draws intelligence from the universal source and absorbs it, as it draws and absorbs the principle of material life. This would be an inaccurate comparison. Intelligence is a faculty possessed by each distinct being, which constitutes its moral individuality. In any case, we have told you that there are things that human beings are unable to fathom. For the time being, this is one of them.
So what the spirits are telling us here is that the source of intelligence is the universal intelligence. So the intelligence comes, let's say, from where does the universal intelligence comes from? God. So the intelligent being draws, Kardec asks if it's correct to say the intelligent being draws intelligence from the universal source, and the spirit says no, that's inaccurate. That's not a good comparison. And then they say, you know, at this level of evolution, we are unable to understand the source of intelligence. So in this sense, that's where they end. We just have to understand that intelligence is a faculty possessed by each distinct being. All right, so it's an individual attribute, intelligence, and the source of it we don't have a way to understand it yet according to the spirits. Okay. Comments, questions, anything here?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a comment or I just need clarification. But a few pages before, we were talking about the spirit. And the spirit, the only thing we can talk about is that.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
Hello?
Yes, go ahead.
The only thing about the spirit that we could recognize was the intelligence, because we really don't know much about the spirit, just intelligent manifestations that we said that. So can we say that the spirit in actuality or intelligence is under the umbrella of the spirit?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
of course. Yes, yes.
It's
It's
under the
not
umbrella.
my.
Huh?
Yeah, we cannot. It's not an attribute. It's not an attribute of the living being. It's of the spirit, right?
Exactly. That's what this exactly that we talked about that a few pages back, didn't we?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay. I see it now. In fact, that's the only thing that we can talk about or approximate a little bit, because with spirit we don't know much either.
Yes. We know that the spirit, the intelligence is an attribute of the spirit.
Exactly.
Because and the proof of that is that when the physical body dies, the spirit continues to have all the knowledge that it acquired.
Exactly. So
right?
yes.
So the brain in the physical body is the instrument used to exercise the intelligence while we are incarnated. But the brain is not the source of an intelligence.
Yes.
It's the instrument.
Very
okay.
Good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Continue.
Okay. Yeah, Elmo, anything to add here? No, you're good.
No, we're good.
Okay.
Is instinct independent of intelligence? No, not exactly, because it is a type of intelligence. Instinct is unreasoned intelligence, by which all beings satisfy their wants.
Yeah. Now, when we start talking about instinct, we have to understand that the intelligence is associated with the instinct, because we learned behaviors are instinctive, and it becomes natural, but the origin is in the intelligence. So I was reading a discussion that Kardec had on the Spiritist magazine, that was a message from Lazarus on February 1862, when Lazarus was talking about the instinct, and Kardec disagrees with him, which is very interesting. That he says there are two types of instinct: the animal instinct and the moral instinct. The first one, organic, and it's given to the living beings for its survival, as well as their descendants, right? And Kardec says that it is blind and almost unconscious, because that's how the creation gave us the ability as an opposition of our indifference and negligence. Meaning, we have an instinct, a survival instinct, which comes, we all have it. Okay, so for us not to survive is a conscious choice. Killing oneself, allowing yourself to die, is a conscious choice. It's not an instinctive choice. And the moral instinct, Kardec says, that is a privilege of the human being, and it's the innate tendency to practice good or evil. And it's directly related to the more or less evolvement of the spirit. How do we explain that? So you remember an example that I always like to give of charity, right? How many times did you blink today? You don't know. You don't count. You have no idea. How many times did you practice charity today? 1, 2, 3. If you make you are going to count, right? Because it's something that you have to think before you do. Practice charity. More evolved spirits practice charity instinctively because it already became a part of who they are. They do not have to stop and think. So when you ask more evolved spirit, how many times they practice charity in a day? All the time. They are all the time practicing charity. So that's where Kardec comes from, this moral instinct, and it becomes something of what is a part of us. And we are. I'm going to go back to this on this next question, because the next question, just read it quickly, Philip.
Can a line be drawn between instinct and intelligence, precisely defining where one ends and the other begins? No, because they often blend together. However, the actions belonging to instinct and those belonging to intelligence are easily distinguished. So
what the spirits are saying here is that we cannot draw a line between instinct and intelligence. And a very good example that I found on this is our ability to read, right? In the beginning, when you are young and you are learning to read, it's hard. You have to make an effort. You have to connect, and it take a while. Nowadays, reading, I will prove that is instinctive. Someone puts a sign in front of you, you read it instinctively. You don't stop to think, oh, I'm not going to read it. I'm going to read it. You read it. It's instinctive. So that's where, but it became with the intelligence, with the use of your intelligence to learn how to read. So that's where the spirits are telling us that they blend together, because you have to use your intelligence to read. But to read nowadays is instinctive. You are going to read, like it or not. It's difficult. You have to make an effort to not read. And that's why, in the roads, the advertisements, they know that you are going to read. They know that they are going to call your attention. That's why they're effective. It's instinctive. We read. Okay, so that's the importance here, to understand the difference of concepts. So I'm having a question here. Where do we store all the information experience before intelligence and instinct, before becoming spirits? Okay, so before becoming spirits, when we are spiritual principle, going through the mineral, vegetable, and animal, animal no, because already using some intelligence and instinct. We are learning it. We are accumulating experiences. So the spiritual principle is accumulating instinctive learning, and that's when nowadays science talks about autonomic behavior and reflexive behavior, right? Which at the time what was all called instinct, right? So like Elmo can explain very well, the autonomic functions of the physical body, they're not instinctive. They your heart beats when you are sleeping, your lung is always exchanging air in and out. These are autonomic functions. Reflexes, right? someone throw a ball at you, you move away from it, that's reflex. Again, you can call it instinct. You instinctively moved away, yes, but nowadays it's called reflex. But before we become an individual spirit with free will, it's only accumulating all this learning that is going to be stored in us as first in spiritual principle and then individual spirits. Okay, now so that's why we don't have karma before becoming humans or spirits, individual spirits, not humans, because humans is incarnated on earth. Before we become individual spirits, because there is no knowledge of good and evil, so we are not responsible for our actions. So the accumulation of these experiences are all there. Okay. Anything to add here, Elmo, especially on the autonomic and reflexes, if you could bring some light.
The autonomic are the functions in specific organs of the body that acts regardless and independent of us. Right now, our heart is beating from 60 to 100, hopefully most of us, because that's the normal heartbeat, regardless of what we're doing. And it will accommodate, it'll go faster or slower, regardless of us want it or not. It will respond to many things. Our heart right now, it responds to many things and say, let's maintain our normal heart rate, maybe 72. Now something's happening. I'm gonna need more blood flow to my legs, so let's increase the heart rate. Now I'm gonna pump at 120. Okay, regardless of my control, it does on its own. That's autonomic. Right now, our diaphragm is going up and down as we breathe. Okay, our lungs are inflating and deflating, inflating and deflating, and it requires the diaphragm to go up and down, up and down. Our ribs, the muscles between the ribs are contracting and reflexing and extending continuously so we can breathe. And it's all done regardless of us, regardless of paying attention to it or not. It does its own thing. That's what we call autonomic in our system. And reflex, as Ron has explained, is just an instinct of preservation. As John says, if you throw a ball at you, you will skip from it, secondary to the instinct of preservation. You want to keep yourself healthy, and you do everything to keep yourself healthy, regardless of us. Now, but that's pertain more to animals, because humans have the intelligence, it can bypass the instinct. So you do a lot of things that is not good for our health, but animals in general, they don't. And animals in general will do things to keep them healthy. There's also a reflex to perpetuate its own genetic pool. They say that you want to perpetuate the species. No, we don't. You want to perpetuate our own genetic pool. So we have a reflex to look to the opposite sex and recognize when the opposite sex is ready to mate, because we want to perpetuate our own genetic pool. These are reflexive behavior as well.
Okay, any other questions here? Okay, go ahead, Philip.
Is it correct to say that the instinctive faculties taper as intellectual faculties develop? No. Instinct always exists, but humans dismiss it. Instinct, like reason, may lead us in the right direction. It always guides us, and sometimes even more surely than reason. It never goes astray. Why is reason not always a foolproof guide? It would be if it were not corrupted by poor education, pride, and selfishness. Instinct does not reason. Reason provides freedom of choice and gives individuals free will. Instinct is a primary form of intelligence, differing from intelligence in that it is often spontaneous, while intelligence is the result of planning and deliberate action. Instinct can manifest itself very differently between species based on their needs. In beings that possess self-consciousness and the perception of things outside themselves, it is associated with intelligence, i.e., freedom of action and will.
Okay, so this is the last one. When we talk about instinct, Kardec asked if as we develop intellectual faculties, the instinct will disappear. And of course, we know that the instinct always exists. And this, when the Spirit say here, instinct like reason may lead us in the right direction. That's very important, right? Because a lot of people say, well, go by your instincts that you always be right. And I always give the example, right? That if a bear runs towards you, your instinct is to run away from the bear. And the reason and the intelligence should tell you to stay put, because the bear will less likely attack you, because if he runs after you, he'll catch you. So that's why the spirits say here, it may lead us on the right direction. We should always pay attention to our instincts, yes, but not 100% of the time our instincts will be correct. Now, when we start reasoning and we start thinking about it, then as the Spirit says it here, reason can be corrupted by poor education, pride, and selfishness. We have many examples of people reasoning and believing they are 100% correct, and in the end, we find that they are not, or they find that they are not, right? Humanity was sure that that the earth was the center of the universe, right? And for many years, many centuries, whoever disagreed was either had to keep quiet or burn at stake. So that was the reason at that time. And you know, we laugh at it nowadays. We have those that still believe nowadays that the earth is flat, right? And they believe it. That's, you know, they use their reason, they analyze it, and they believe the earth is flat. So what is pride, selfishness, poor education, all three of them, or other things? Again, it's our, we can only guess, right? Because some things are really difficult to understand. But anyway, going back to instinct, what Kardec says here is that in the end, instinct is a primary form of intelligence. As we evolve and we become more intelligence, and we add instinctive behaviors that will lead us in the right direction, that's how we are improving our intelligence and our instinctive actions, right? So if you live in a place that has a lot of bears and you face them a lot of times, you know, instinctively you're going to react in the correct way, contrary to someone who never saw a bear in their lives, and the first time they see, they are going to run. So that's a learning behavior of the instinctive side. And I mentioned before, learning to do charity and transform it into an instinctive behavior is also an evolution of our instincts, and using intelligence for the improvement of ourselves, our evolution. So that's where what Kardec was mentioning here on the moral instinct, which is the innate propension to do good, right? According to the evolution of the spirit. Okay, and again, that's Spiritism Review, February 1862, about instincts. That it's a comment by Lazarus and then a comment by Kardec. Okay. Right, this was the last one. Any questions? Yes, another questions. Is instinct developed over time or is natural? Instinct is developed, as we just said here, right? As we progress from spiritual principle to individual spirits, our instinct is developing, right? The same way our free will is not given to us, but it is, we start developing free will as we become individual spirits. The same thing with the instinct. The development of instinct becomes intelligence? No. Instinct and intelligence, it's not that one becomes the other. One helps the other and interchanges with the other, but it's not that the instinct will become intelligence. It can become an intelligent, more intelligent instinct, but it's not, it doesn't become intelligence per se. Okay.
Let me see if I could, I don't know, I think I'm all confused. Can I, the way I'm looking at it is that we have intelligence, which has a base of instinct, based on the autonomic and the reflective reactions. As we progress, that will all stay with us always. As we progress, then we are given reason.
Intelligence, okay. And we are given, we develop our intelligence and we start using our reason when we become individual spirits.
Exactly. But my point is that I could also place under the umbrella of intelligence the instinctual behaviors, the autonomic and the reflective reactions.
No,
you can
define that they are autonomic and reflective, but that's probably part of the evolvement of intelligence, because eventually we're going to develop reason. And they say here that is the primary something, it's the primary thing.
Instinct is a primary form of intelligence.
Exactly. So he said it's a primary form of intelligence. So if you guys look at the concept of intelligence, you have to start with the autonomic reactions, the reflective reactions, and then last with the reasoning independent process. Am I making sense?
Yes, it's all combined. It's all an evolution.
Exactly.
And instinct and intelligence often interacts with each other, but they are distinct, right? We cannot say that intelligence and instinct are the same thing. They are different things.
They're different. No, definitely different.
Yeah, but yes, in the sense that when we are in the spiritual principle evolution, we are learning the autonomic functions, the reflex. So a tree grows into the direction of sun. This is reflex, right?
Exactly. Yes. Okay. So
a tree feeds itself from the soil, right? This is autonomic, right? It does it automatically.
Yeah, that's cool.
But this is all accumulating on the learning of the spiritual principle, and then the instinct, the intelligence begins to develop in the animal phase, because the plants plants do not have intelligence. All right,
No,
the animals start to have intelligence,
Yeah, but
very
that's it.
basic.
Yeah, but I'm trying to include that, the instinct is part of the intelligence, like you said, and what you call intelligence is the reasoning dynamic, the logical phenomenon, which is intelligence. That we usually call that intelligence, yes. But in order to
Reason is an attribute of the intelligence, right? It's not intelligence and reason are also not the same thing, right? You have unreasonable, people that do not have much reason, and intelligence is an attribute of everybody. I don't know if maybe you can, Elmo, can you explain different words here?
Instinct is something that is already there with you or with any living being at the moment that living being is born, is created. The instinctive behavior is there already. By the
Yes.
time that a snake hatched out of that egg, it had learned everything that you ever learned. It has already programmed everything that it requires to survive, to grow, to mature, to reproduce. It's not to do with intelligence here, okay? I don't want to really anticipate the chapters ahead, but we, at one point, as intelligent principle, before you become an individualized intelligent principle, we went through experiences in the mineral, in the vegetable, in the lower animals. In that process, we learned, let's say, in the mineral, aggregation, separation, retraction, all those things that really physical. We learn, we went through those experiences there. In the vegetable, we develop some kind of instincts, as Ron have mentioned over there, the ability of the roots to recognize where is the closest source of water and grow in that direction, the ability to recognize where the sunlight's coming from and deviate itself towards the light. This is an instinct, also reflective instinct as well. And as we go experiences in different living things, we go acquiring more and more instincts. But and then we come to a point, still in the animal phase, in which we get the very important thing what Kardec says at the end of the end here. Being that possesses self-consciousness and the perception of things outside themselves is associated with intelligence. This is very important because in order to learn something, it requires intelligence. If it's a learning behavior, it shows that animal has some degree of intelligence. If you can teach your dog a trick, your dog has a degree of intelligence. If chimpanzees teach their young how to build things, how to pick the best rock, to break nuts, how to get tools, form tools, this is intelligent behavior. It requires that you recognize that someone is able to teach you something. So you have to recognize the other. You have to have the perception of the other in order to learn. And then we are able to exercise very complex, eloquent brain activity to pay attention, store what was given to you, repeat, learn. This is extremely complex, right? So the two things are different and separated, okay? Instinct is a prerequisite.
Exactly, for the
It's
other
a
one.
prerequisite. It's not a what's the word? It's not a cause of intelligence. It's a prerequisite for you to get to that level. Okay, but the two things coexist. They are different. We have all our instincts yet. All these things that we acquired in the animal, in the vegetable phase, in the mineral phase, we still have all those instincts. The thing is that intelligence can bypass them, or we act on those instincts without thinking. That's why they are instinctive. And even thinking, very often we bypass things even that we have learned. There is a part of our brain that its job is to recognize things that are done repeatedly. And when they recognize those things that are done repeatedly, then the next time that it's time to do it, we don't even think, we just do it. Like right now, we all walk forward without any problem. It is a learning process. There was an instinct that guides us to stand up and walk, but somebody else will teach us how to walk. We learn to walk. And now we walk forward instinctively, basically. But if I ask you to walk backwards, that you have to think. You have to put a thought to it. It's no longer instinctive. It's not you don't do it automatic. If I ask to walk forward 3 steps, to the side 4 steps like a dance, you have to learn it again. You have to retrain your brain. And if you do it often, that part of your brain will start doing almost automatically. That's why we need to practice. If you want to dance, if you want to do something, as you practice and you practice and you practice, it becomes easy for you to go ahead and do it. So the two things coexist. Instincts comes before, but it's a prerequisite, but it's not the source of intelligence. You understand that?
It's not the source. Yeah,
Not the
okay.
source.
But can I look at it as, let's go, concept of intelligence. We have the one, the unreasoned intelligence and the reasoned intelligence. Under the unreasoned intelligence, we are going to include the autonomic and reflective reactions. And within the reasoned intelligence,
No, I wouldn't.
after
I
is
wouldn't
the
call automation intelligence at all.
what?
I would not say the automation is intelligent. I would not associate intelligence with automation, because snake has other automation. He also has a heart beating, but it's anchovy or sardine also has automation, but I don't say they have intelligence.
Well, but I look at it in the sense that it says instinct is unreasoned intelligence. The book
Yeah,
says.
no, well, okay, I disagree with you.
Question 73. That's what I'm having this kind of picture in my mind. You know, the global definition of intelligence and measured into unreasoned and reason. Unreasoned, the instincts, and the reason, the logical thinking and capacity to learn.
How can a plant have reason if there's nothing that allows it to reason? And when
Let's not worry about that. Let's go on. It's sometimes it's probably a matter of words.
Yeah, or it's words here. Yeah, definitely. Because when it says it's unreasoned intelligence, when the Spirit says unreasoned intelligence, they are talking here on something that what Elmo says about the snake, right? It has all the instinctive learning when it hatches out of the egg. So the spirits are calling unreasoned intelligence, but maybe we shouldn't use unreasoned intelligence here as the more appropriate words, because then you start mixing intelligence with instinct in a way that may confuse. It's yeah, I was looking at the original. It's some reason there also. It's and when we talk about animals, and I think it's important for us to understand that the difference into the evolution, right? When Elmo mentioned the snake, right? A dog or a cat or the mammals, they learn, right? So you cannot teach a snake, but you can teach a dog. The thing is, the learning of the dogs go to the other living dogs, but that they don't accumulate learning for the next generation of dogs. Do not bring the learning from the previous generation, let's say. They can learn as they are living, and that's the intelligence, primitive intelligence as defined. But there is no reason there. Again, it's a form of primitive intelligence. Yeah. We have a couple of questions here that brings a little more of complications to our discussions. So is instinct also associated with feelings? Example, instinct of run or feeling of run, fear, love, etc. How so? Feelings and instincts are two different things, right? When we talk about fear, instinctive fear, that's something, and I was reading about an experience, right? Recent born, they are afraid of snakes and spiders. Why? Where does this fear come from? This is completely instinctive, right? They have love for their parents. It's instinctive, right? But these are feelings. So yes and no, Renato. It's feelings are associated with instinct, yes, but feelings and instincts are different things, right? Then you ask, what's the difference between that on animals and humans, for example? Well, it's just a more primitive and more evolved feeling. That's the difference, because as animals have feelings for their owners, and you cannot not call that feelings, right? You can say, well, this is instinctive because they feed them. Well, it goes a little beyond that. They have feelings for their owners, for the ones that take care of them, for the ones that treat them well. So we can call feelings, you can call primitive feelings. And in humans, we have more evolved feelings, but still feelings, some are associated with instinct and some are not. Elmo, any comments here on feelings? Because that's a tough one also. To bring it together with all this.
Well, the first thing I have to ask is, what do you mean by feelings?
Fear, love, these are all feelings.
Those are mostly associated with instinct. If you gotta call fear a feeling, yeah, it's mostly associated with instinct. If for us who doesn't know a snake, doesn't work with snakes, we will have a natural fears of snakes. As you said, a newborn is afraid of snake. which is part of an instinct of self-preservation. We will avoid things that could be harmful to us instinctively, okay? But we can bypass them. If feeling hungry, feeling hunger, that's reflective. That's your body telling you that you're getting low on energy, and you need to supply more things to produce more energy for your body. That is instinctive. So I think the feelings most of the time, in that sense, are instinctive. I just want to make a difference that I'm not saying I feel for you, I have compassion for you. Is that not this kind of feeling that you're talking about? I have empathy towards others. That is a more eloquent kind of behavior that I think is more associated with moral intelligence.
Yeah, I agree.
But don't we
But-
say that when someone is in need, we have the instinct to act and do something, even if
Depend
it's
on your
empathy or
moral
whatever?
depends on your moral evolution. There are
as-
people that feel nothing.
Yeah, that is intelligence bypassing instinct, because our instinct would be to assist as social beings. All social beings have that instinct. In a herd of buffalo, if one is being attacked by lions, they will try to protect that one. So there is this instinctive perpetuation of oneself, but also of the group. In a group of all animals who are social beings, they have that instinct. And perhaps that's why we go to those experiences in the animal phase to acquire that instinctive behavior, and then associate with intelligence. We have empathy, we go beyond what an animal does.
It's complex and requires a lot more study, and especially because when we talk about instinct nowadays, there is so much information that there's so much study. And for instance, when we talk about the herd instinct, right? It's found in human children and in chimpanzee cubs, but it's absent in young orangutans. So you see that even the instincts differ depending on what living being you are, right? So
yeah, you see, I think the thing is, as Kardec, as the Spirit says over here, there is not a line that separates things in nature, right? Usually there is that a gray zone, and that gray zone is very large. It's perhaps as large as the black and the white. That gray zone is extremely large. So you say like primates, we all primates, right? We humans, the chimpanzees and the orangutans are all primates. And there is quite difference between the behavior of those individuals. Orangutans are more isolated animals. It's mom and cubs, and that's it. Chimpanzee is a very well-organized community of a lot of members on it, with a tremendous hierarchy and social order established that has to be maintained. Very complex society already. Orangutans are more individualist. When you sit together, usually it's mother and offsprings, or it's mating season. We are more complex in animals in society, like like the chimpanzee. So even amongst primates, there is tremendous amount of differentiation. Some of the behaviors are purely instinct, some requires tremendous amount of intelligence, and some have actually a little bit of reason already in the primates. And with humans, of course, there is plenty of reason, or should be. Some of us are lacking it.
Yeah. One thing that we say always, okay, Danny, yes, go ahead.
The answers here that the spirits are always giving us, they are sort of like, this is it, these are the answers, and we are lacking something to understand or grasp because they're always ahead of us, or the spirits who were answering Allan Kardec in 1850s were also a little bit behind in some understanding and progress in science, and like, are they moving ahead like us but a little bit further ahead, or they were done and then we are sort of like catching up behind always, like with all these questions that are coming up, trying to connect the dots?
The only perfect spirit was the spirit of truth. All the other spirits are not perfect spirits yet, but they work directly with the spirit of truth. So they are much more advanced than we are, but they are not perfect. Their knowledge is, of course, way ahead of our knowledge, including and up to today. But the limitation of what they could speak, they could explain, was limited by our ability to understand and express at that time. It's like if some spirits start talking about a cell phone in 1850, nobody would understand anything. There were not even words to explain. But the understanding of this mean of communication that, I am not going to say that was called cell phone, but this mean of communication, the spirits had this knowledge. I'm sure they had already, right? The André Luiz describes a plasma TV in Osula, right? So they have their knowledge more than we are, but what normally we say, we really don't need much more evolved spirits to teach us, right? Because it's just the spirits that are a little more advanced than us can teach us. But in the spirits of the codification, these are highly evolved spirits working directly with the spirit of truth.
So if Allan Kardec would be writing the book today, answering the questions, probably the questions could be way more, it could adapt more to our understanding now, our knowledge now, right? Like mentioning things that 100 and some years ago we would not understand, but today we would.
Yes, that's why you have the other books that came after that complement, books by Chico Xavier, the books that Divaldo brings today, right? When you read the last book by Divaldo talking about COVID, that's not a book that could have been written 10 years ago because nobody would understand what they were talking about. So yes, the spirits are giving us as much as we can understand. And Kardec, the questions that Kardec asks the spirits are very actual questions. If you read and pay attention to them, we continue studying the Spirit's book today, and we continue learning every time we go back and read questions, because we always find information we haven't paid attention because of our lack of intellectual involvement at that time. And it's something that me and Elmo always talk about, that we are doing it for the 6th, 7th time. And every time we are going to study and prepare for a class, we look at things that and think to ourselves, how didn't I notice this before? So for you to see the relevance of the questions and answers is that we continue reading them and finding new things and new information there that we haven't noticed in the previous times.
And I think
Okay.
it is for that reason that the Spirit does not go into details and it on the exceptions, that it sticks to the base root of, let's say, instinct and intelligence, because now it's something that is perennial. It doesn't go away. You can read this book 200 years from now, and those things are still actual, because instinct is what it is and it always be what it is, and intelligence is what it is and it always be what it is. Now, as I mentioned over here, our developed understanding of complex and less complex societies, how the behaviors change for animals who are live in isolation, individuals, how are they different from animals like us who lives in society, what the differentiate of that, and how it shapes our intelligence. That is upgrade from the time of Kardec. But the basics of instinct and intelligence is still the same. They have not changed. And I think the spirits have to be very careful to give those answers. They can imagine not to anticipate, not to give more than what we can digest, okay, but something that is perennial, that can stay with us forever, because it's always be what it is.
Yeah. All right, our time is up. We went a little bit over. I was thinking that we're going to get into book 2, but we didn't. So next week, we start with spirits. The book 2, the spirit world, first chapter, spirits. Okay. So before we go to our final prayer, just what we have on Saturday, we have it's the National Day of Spiritism. Sunday, April 18 is the date that the Spirits book was launched, right? So we call it the National Day of Spiritism, and we are going to have a panel with members of the different Spiritist federations in the US. So conducted by Jussara, we are going to have Marcelo Neto from the Spiritist Federation of Florida, Daniel Santos from the Spiritist Society of Maryland, Sonia Doi from the Spiritist Medical Association, Daniel Assisi from the California Spiritist Association, and Peter Hayes from the Tri-State Spiritist Federation, our own federation here. It's going to be a panel discussion celebrating the National Day of Spiritism, okay, Saturday at 11 a.m. On Sunday, we are going to study, this is the third Sunday of the month, so we're going to study On the Way to the Light. And before I call Carol, I want to thank all those that participated in our anniversary on Sunday, especially those that were active in giving their testimonies and their and helped us, Paco, Philip, Zoraida, Renato, Carol, and we appreciate your participation. We appreciate your time, Mariana, also that is here, that did a wonderful job with the youth education. All the videos separated are available on YouTube. So if you missed any of the parts, you can always watch them again. It's on our YouTube page, separated by each section that we had. Okay?
Question.
Yes.
Regarding the panel this next Saturday, your announcement then doesn't mention, the subject.
What they're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Yeah. They are going to talk about the Spiritism and the Spirits book and the basics. There is no I don't know exactly what they're talking about, to be very honest. It's just the National Day of Spiritism, and they're having a panel on Spiritism. That's all as far as I know. So
That's
you know.
pretty open, huh?
Yeah, well, you turn it on and see if it works or not. That's all I can say. So Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you, John and Elmo. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we are grateful to be together this evening for the study of the Spirit's book. We've been studying Chapter 4, the Vital Principle, and its subject of intelligence and instinct. We know that intelligence is an attribute of the Spirit. The brain is not the source of intelligence. Instinct is a type of intelligence, and it is developed. We are grateful to pursue and learn more in-depth studies of these attributes as we go forward. We give thanks for the opportunity to do so together via Zoom, via our connectivity, which is a great resource. We are grateful to our spiritual benefactors, the good spirits, the mentors, the guides, the helpers, and the healers who are assisting us, helping us to be more grounded and more positive in our thoughts, more active in our charitable activities, and our growth together as a community. We are grateful for what we have received, the blessings of love, light, and healing. And we humbly ask for the love and light of Christ to be with us, to inspire us, to guide us, and to keep us on the high road in this lifetime. We close now and humbly ask to go forth in safety and be protected as we go to our family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. May we keep our vibration elevated and our hearts open. May we be of service, and when in doubt, may we use the lesson of the golden rule, do unto others as we would like them to do unto us. We are grateful for all those who are participating this evening, and we ask for those who are in need of healing that they be so blessed. We close now and ask to be beacons of light, continuing with our prayers, our studies, and our mindfulness throughout the week. Go forth now in peace. So be it.